Hey everyone, welcome back to the new episode of Road to Rust. In this episode, we will be learning about arrays versus vector. So, what are arrays in Rust and vector in Rust? And when we need to use arrays and when we need to use vector. So, let's dive into the code and let's see the practical example. And then you will be breaking into the pieces in a way, or we can say in a form of diagram, to better understand the arrays and vectors in Rust. So let's jump into the code. So here we have an empty object from our previous tutorials of a deck, which contains an empty vector. So now we need to fill this vector with a list of cards. So there is one option to do that. It's like 2 of spades, comma 2 of diamonds. This is a one way of adding our cards directly into our vector. But this is a very much manual way, which will be like we are adding 52 cards manually one by one. So let's have some automate way to doing that. So let's remove this and let's create a array. Let's say suits, and let's say we will be having diamonds, and we will be having spades, and let's say we will be having clubs. So now this is an array because if we see that the suits are not gonna change, like I have defined three suits at the moment, so the type of suits are not gonna change. It will remain same. They are not growing or shrinking at the moment. So I have used an array. So now let's create one more array, which is the values of these type of cards. So let's say 2, let's say 3, let's say 4. So now for creating it, before creating or before using a loop and we create a list of card, let's jump into a diagram and see that what's the difference between an array and vector in a Rust programming language. So now we are on the diagram and we can see that there is a one definition of an array and a one definition of a vector. So let's read those definition, and then we can learn that why we have used an array at some part of our code, and at some part of our code we are going to use a vector. So if we see the definition of an array, so array are fixed in size. They can't grow and shrink. So the type of suits are not going to change. As we know that suits and value list going to be changed in the future? No, they are not going to change in the future. So if not, then we can use an array. And why we are using an array? Because a user for example, user need to define a length or size of an array before the compilation of a program. It can't grow and shrink dynamically. So it gives us a performance, or we can say it work more performant in term of a vector, because the thing which is growing and shrinking dynamically, it will have some little bit amount of hit on a performance. So array, I can define in a number that how much we will be getting, our code will perform better if we use array, but it will improve the performance of our program. And in the parallel of array, we can see the vectors. So we need to use the vectors there where the size of that list is growing or shrinking. So this is a basic simple example, or we can say a simple definition of array and vectors. Now let's jump back to the code and see we need to generate the list, and then we will be going to save that list of cards into a vector. Because for example, at the moment we have like we haven't defined all the values like 2, 3, 4, 5, and like from the list of cards we can remove some of the cards and we can keep some of the cards. So the vector we will be defining a vector for cards which can grow and shrink in size. So now let's jump to the code. So now let's generate our card list dynamically, or we can say in a runtime, and save those list of cards into a vector, because we are generating cards at runtime, so we need a vector. We can't use array here. So this is an example why we need a vector. Why we are not using an array? Because we are generating the cards at runtime and we are saving in saving that at the same time. So let's say we will be using a for loop to generate these cards, list of cards. So we will be using a nested loop. So we will be creating the cards in a form of like say 2 of diamonds, 2 of spades, like this. So now we will be using, or we can say we will be looping first on our suits. So we can say for suit in suits, then we will be doing again loop on value in values, and then we will be creating, or we can say we will be creating a string, or we can say we are creating a card string which we will going to save in our vector. So now let's create our string. We will be using format, which will help us to do some fancy stuff with the string, or we can create a string in a very easy way. So we will be using format exclamation mark. Let's say we will be adding this, and then we will be adding off, and then we can add suit, and we will be adding a value, and we press, we can save. So as we can see that there is no error or nothing, things are perfectly fine. Now we need to add this card, or we can say we need to save this card into a vector. So now we need to create one vector. So let's say list of cards, and let's create a empty vector, and in this we will be pushing our string which we have created in a loop. So let's say list of cards, and we will be pushing our card here. When we press save, then we can see that there is an error popping, or we can say showing on a list of cards. So when we hover it, we can see that it's saying us cannot mutate an immutable variable. So for the moment, it's not making a sense what's the error and why it's happening. So now we can solve this error very easily by just adding a mut keyword in our list of cards. And when we save the code again, we can see that the error has been disappeared. So let's do the printing stuff to see that our cards are printing in a form which we needed or not. So let's say list of cards, and let's use the same thing we have used here to print our values in a readable manner, and then we will be adding here a list of cards. So now let's save the code, and now we will going to run our code by using, or we can say build our code first using a cargo, then we will use it running our code using a cargo, and we can see that what our output is coming. Now we are at the terminal. Let's run our first command, which is cargo build. When we hit enter, it shows some warnings, so don't go on in those warnings at the moment, and let's run our code. When we hit enter, we can see that there is a list of cards, diamonds of 2, diamonds of 3, diamonds of 4, and so on. We have generated our list. So now you guys are thinking that why we have added this mute keyword, and what is this mute keyword which resolves all the error. So we will be going to cover this mute keyword, and we can say mutable and immutable concept in our next video, which will help you to understand this mute thing which we have used it here. So this is all about the array versus vector in Rust programming language. I know you guys have a confusion regarding that mute keyword which we have used in our code, but don't worry, it will be coming in our next video where we will be going to discuss mutable and immutable concept. So thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe my channel and like this video, and stay tuned for the next video. Thank you guys for watching.